long as God in your corner, faith gon' remain stronger. Cause we was born to win, had angels that prayed for us.
Hi guys, thank you guys for coming back to my channel. For those of you who are returners, for those of you who are new, please feel free to subscribe, to click the little bell so you're always notified when I release a video, comment, share it, all of that good stuff. My name is Sky M, and I am an urban fiction author as well as the owner of Crown BAWSE, which is a company that is in place to give women the intrinsic motivation and inspiration to move forward despite whatever obstacles they are challenged with at that moment. I like to come in and give you guys some advice, read off some quotes that I love, and talk about the quotes. And today is gonna be no different. I had to pull over because I had something on my heart that I wanted to share with you guys, and I felt like right now was a good time to do that. So today's quote is, "So many strong women begin as broken girls." And this quote means a lot to me, not just because it's a quote and it touches a part of you, but because the quote actually was me, or is me. I was a broken girl. I was in a relationship that meant everything to me. Let's just be honest, at that time. And during the relationship, so much stuff happened. Like, I was broken when that relationship ended, and it didn't end on my behalf, it ended on his behalf. But I was broken when the relationship ended. I had endured a lot: cheating, children. It was one incident of domestic abuse, but I wouldn't classify that as my entire relationship. But I was, like I said, when the relationship ended, I was broken. It felt like the end of the world for me. Like, I had no structure in my life, no guidance. I didn't know what I wanted to do anymore. I was so content with working a dead-end job and going home, kicking off my shoes, laying on the couch with food, watching Diary of a Mad Black Woman, and honestly, that was it. Like, that was what my life consumed of, pretty much, after the breakup. I was nothing like myself. Prior to that breakup, prior to it going horribly wrong, I had gone back to school for my associates. I was working as a youth counselor for a mental health clinic. I mean, I just had so much going for myself. And when that relationship ended, by the time the relationship ended, I was in a state I knew no one but this man and his family. I was struggling to pay my bills. I was working at a retail store, minimum wage. I was lucky if I got 20 hours a week, So I had a hard time managing my rent, managing my electric bill, managing all of this stuff. And again, when this relationship ended, I was so content. Like, I can't imagine what would have happened, or who I would have been had I stayed in this relationship, despite the universe telling me that it just was not for me. So it broke me. And I felt like that's what needed to be done. They say if it's not broke, don't fix it. Well, me being broken caused me to be fixed. After the breakup, after I had time to come to terms with the breakup and the relationship being over and this man no longer being a part of my life, girl, I was unstoppable. Let me tell you. I went back to school. I don't know what happened. I think I just got tired. Like, I had an epiphany. I was sick and tired of being sick and tired of sitting in this house all day crying over this man who not once came back to see if I was okay, didn't call to see if I was okay, didn't care how I paid the bills. I wasn't driving at the time. I was living in Virginia, and I was walking 3 hours to work, 3 hours home if I couldn't get a ride. But he or his family was not making sure I was okay. His cousins did eventually. I don't think they knew at first what was going on, But once they found out, they made sure that they helped me every way that they could. If I needed to get to work, they was driving me to work, driving me home. They taught me how to drive. Like, I would stay there sometimes if I needed to walk to work because they were closer to my job than I was. Like, they were a godsend. But this man, he didn't even want, like, he didn't want nobody to help me. Anybody that was associated with him, he didn't want them to help me, or he wasn't dealing with them. So I'm like, how could I be crying over this man and he don't even care about my well-being? Like, I could have been kidnapped, abducted, I could have been raped. Anything could have happened on them 3-hour walks to work or 3-hour walks home from work, because by the time I made it home, or by the time I got off of work, it was dark outside. But I finally got sick and tired of being sick and tired, and I wrote out a list of goals. I had like a trillion notebooks in my house because I've always been a writer. And I decided that I was going to write out some goals, and I was going to take them goals and I was going to knock them out one by one, sometimes 2 at a time. And that's what I did. So I left my job because, let's be real, I'm walking 3 hours to work, 3 hours home, and then I got transferred to another store. I was working an hour to work, an hour home, and I was getting like 8 hours, 6 hours a week. That didn't even add up. That was the whole time I spent walking there. So I left the job. I was out of work for 5 months. Thank God for my family. They held me down throughout that entire time. My dad, my mom, they would send me money for my cell phone bill, send me money for my rent, electric bill. A lot of times I can remember that I wouldn't pay my electric bill for food, or I wouldn't buy food to get my electric bill. But you know, it was a struggle. I had nothing figured out at that time. I just knew I didn't want to return back to New York with nothing. Like, I had left New York to be with this man in Virginia, and the relationship was over, and I was not going back home empty-handed. I was going to go home with something to show for me being in Virginia and being heartbroken and all of that stuff. So I put on this list of goals that I was going to go back to school, that I was going to find me a full-time job, I was going to learn how to drive, and I was going to get me a car. Within, I want to say 2 weeks, I was enrolled in school. I had taken my placement test to figure out what classes I would be taking, whether it was remedial or not. And I had been accepted to the school. I had no way of buying my textbooks, but I wasn't worried about that at the moment. I was just glad to be enrolled back in school. I spent countless hours in the library at the school and in the public library, which was a little walk from my house, filling out job applications online, editing my resume. I applied to so many jobs and then forgot about them. And 5 months later, a job I had applied to 5 months before called me back, and they wanted to have me come in for an interview for a seasonal position. And I remember being so upset because I'm like, seasonal, I need more than seasonal. Like, I cannot just be at a seasonal job knowing I have rent, I gotta buy textbooks, like I need to buy food. Like, it was so much that I had to worry about, and the job was on the other side of town. It was no way I would have been able to walk there. And I went into the interview, and something just told me, take the seasonal job they offer you and work your ass off and get what you need. Don't just look at it as a seasonal job, because it could be more. And I accepted the job. I remember telling my cousins, well, my ex's cousins, I consider them my cousins though, but I told my ex's cousins and his aunt, this job is on the other side of town. I have no idea how I'm gonna get there. And they told me not to worry about it. His aunt actually worked at the store literally right across the street from where I would be working, and she was like, we'll make a way. And they did. I was at work on time every single day that I had to be there. I learned how to drive within the next 4 months, maybe even quicker than that. I was petrified, but I learned. And then a few months after that, I had a car. And I was like, look at that. I wrote down my goals, and they just manifested. Then, within 2 months, I was taken from seasonal to part-time. And within a couple of weeks, I wouldn't even say it was a full month, I was taken from part-time to full-time. And I was given a raise. A year and a half later, during this time, I was actually writing. Like I said, I've always been a writer. I started as a poet. From poetry, I started writing short stories. I've always been in love with quotes. So this was like a lot of stuff that I would write. And at the time, I was detailing the things I had gone through in this relationship in a notebook, and I didn't even realize I was writing a book. So a year and a half later, I graduated magna cum laude with my bachelor's degree, bachelor's in science. And Lord, when I tell y'all, I was so happy. It felt like the weight of the world was lifted off my shoulders, because during this degree, I was brokenhearted. I was crying every night. I was working 40 hours and in school 18 hours every single week. That's not including me doing tests. That's not including me doing homework. That's not including me studying or any of that stuff. But I was happy when I graduated, because I felt like I had saw, and I had conquered. And I left Virginia at that point because I felt like it was nothing else for me to achieve. I had done every single thing I put on my list of goals to do, and I had done it gracefully, despite being brokenhearted, despite crying myself to sleep every night, despite not eating half the time, like losing all of this weight, my hair falling out. It was a mess, but I did it. And when I returned back home, I didn't know what I wanted to, like, I knew I wanted to work with children, but I didn't know what else I wanted to do. And I just knew that wasn't it. Like, that wasn't my only calling. I also decided, or figured out, that I wanted to be a mentor rather, along with a bunch of other titles for women who had gone through the same things I had gone through. Because when I was going through it, I knew what it felt like to lay in the fetal position in my bed, crying, because the person that I so desperately wanted didn't want anything to do with me, despite me not doing anything wrong. You know, like, I knew how hard it was to achieve that degree. I knew the footwork I had put in. I knew what it felt like to walk them 3 hours, and in my mind, I'm like, damn, this is what this guy did to me. He had been a driver. He didn't even care about my well-being, when he just was like, F you, I'm out. And so, I went back home. That first year, I didn't know what I wanted to name my business. All I knew was that I wanted to start giving back to my community. And I know, as women, moms, it's a lot of moms. I'm not a mom, but there's a lot of moms who are doing it on their own. And I felt like I could start empowering women that way. So what I did was, I decided I wanted to fund 50 children back to school. Like, I got some of my friends and my family, and we all contributed money, and we put money into a pot, pretty much, and we went out and we bought notebooks, loose leaf paper, binders, pencils, pens, erasers, sharpeners, like just about all of the school supplies you could think of. And my brother and my uncle, and they DJ'd for the neighborhood, and we had all of these games, like games from back in the days that we hadn't played in years, from the skip it, double dutch, volleyball, like just so much stuff. We had a good time. And when I finished that year, I was like, I don't know what else, like, what can I call my company? I couldn't figure it out. Then I wrote a book, and I sent the book into a publisher that I loved, the urban fiction publisher. I loved him and his company, and I didn't think I was going to hear nothing back. And less than a week, I heard something back, and he was like, you write wonderfully. He would love to sign you. Call him on this day at this time. I wasted no time. I called, and he offered to sign me to his company, and I signed the contract. And from that, I published 5 books with him, and then I went on to publish 2 more under myself. And at that point, I was like, you know what? I know what I want to call my company. I want to call my company Crown BAWSE. And the reason I wanted to call my company Crown BAWSE was because I felt like when you've been crowned, a lot of times you're born into that. It's not many people who are crowned who haven't been born into royalty. But I had worked so hard. Like, people would never understand how hard I worked. I had worked so hard to get to where I was. And, I felt like that was why I had been crowned BAWSE, because I knew what that hard work was. I had put all of that into myself. I had spent the time needed and necessary to rebuild myself. And that was why I decided Crown BAWSE was going to be the name for my company. from, like, you know, I've been doing things over time to uplift women. We recently did a event in Brooklyn in January alongside Amisa Hilton and Tiana Smalls, where, whew, sorry guys, I'm a little bit long-winded today, but I'm like passionate about this quote. But we did an event where we did makeovers for moms in the shelter in Brooklyn, and we had the women speak and give their story, myself included, on how we reached where we are now. And what I really want people to learn is that it doesn't matter where you start. Sorry guys, I got distracted. They was running in it. It made me like, what the hell is going on? But I want people to know that it really doesn't matter where you start. A lot of times when you are going through heartbreak, when you're going through sadness, hurt, despair, any of that stuff, it feels like the world is ending. Like, I know how it feels. I know it feels like for you, you'll never get out of that place, and everyone else around you just keeps on moving. But I want you to realize that that's your greatness. That is you transforming, that is you growing, that's just everything you need to better yourself. Like I said, they tell you all the time, if it's not broke, don't fix it. So when situations break you, look at it as telling you that something in you needs to be fixed. Something is not right. Something needs to be fixed. It doesn't matter if it is your mindset, if it is the people that you deal with around you. Like, for me, it was the fact that I was a procrastinator. I had gotten comfortable in a position that I knew was not for me, and I had just let go of everything that I had ever been passionate about to be in this relationship. Like, there was a lot of things that needed to be fixed about me, that thank God that this relationship didn't work so that this stuff could get fixed, you know. But that's what I wanted to come and tell you guys today. Do not feel like the place you're in right now is the end. It's not the end. It is really just the beginning. You have no idea the rose that is about to grow from concrete, okay? All right. Now I'm going to let y'all go because it's been 16, 17 minutes and I'm still talking. But feel free to share, like, comment, subscribe. Click the little bell so you're always notified when I release a video. Give me some ideas. Tell me if this resonated with you. Tell me your story. I love to hear your stories. I have a business page, Crown Boss, on Instagram, spelled just the way my YouTube name is spelled, and I post little quotes there and little excerpts, blogs. But I would love to share some of your stories. If any of you have stories, feel free to contact me via email, in the comments. It doesn't matter, whichever way you're comfortable, and we could discuss how we could work together or how I can share your story. Also, you can follow my personal page if you would like to stay up to date with me. My personal Instagram is IamSkyM. So IamSkyEM. I'm also going to put it in the description box below so that you guys are well informed. I have a speaking engagement. I'm on a panel of wonderful women next week, Saturday, in Harlem. You can find that information on my Instagram page as well, okay? I hope you guys have an amazing week. I will talk to you guys next week, I promise.